You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another manga review, and once again, yet another Go Nagai review. It's been a minute since I've done a Go Nagai manga review, and it's been a while since I've done a Violence Jack video in general. But for a long time, I've talked about something called Violence Jack Demons in a War-Torn Land, and I've talked about how I've been unable to find it. Well, that is no longer the case, thanks to some clever viewers who found links to it online. I'd like to give a shout out to said viewers real quickly. First off, there's D. Keats, who's a regular viewer. He mentioned it was on Manga Dex, which most of them mentioned. Also, Monkey Junk pointed out to me where it was. And last but not least, special shout out to Red Flag, who actually put a link to it, so that made it real easy to find. So without further ado, let's talk about Violence Jack Demons in a War-Torn Land. If you've been watching me for a while, you know that I have tried to find this manga for a long time, and every time I'd try to find it, I would just get the first 3 chapters of Shin Violence Jack, but in color. And for once, now that I've read the real thing, I can finally talk about it. Violence Jack Demons in a War-Torn Land starts out in a fairly modern-day setting. It doesn't appear to be post-apocalyptic like most of Violence Jack is, because at one point, the main characters start talking about calling an ambulance and asking if a hospital is nearby, and things like that. So it's very clear to me that they're not in the apocalypse. They end up getting sent through a time warp with Jack, and sent back in time to the Sengoku area, so samurai stuff. So basically, we get Violence Jack and a biker gang sent back in time to this samurai era. You probably can already think of where you think this is going, but I'd say that you're probably wrong, as I was too, starting it, because I thought the biker gang were going to be the bad guys. No, they're not. For once in a Violence Jack chapter, the biker gang are the good guys. When they get sent back in time, they're going up against these samurai that have been threatening and terrorizing this village. So they team up with Jack, and they go up against the samurais. The battle itself happens really quickly, and pretty much all of the biker gang gets wiped out, except for 2 characters who didn't go into battle. And then it's revealed in this really unexpected twist that the samurai were actually androids, who themselves were sent back in time too. So I can only assume that these androids came from post-apocalyptic Kanto and were sent back with Jack to the biker gang's time and then further back in time to the samurai era. Then it ends on a cliffhanger having it say that only Violence Jack knows their fate. So I think maybe, from what I would guess happens after, maybe they ended up in post-apocalyptic Kanto. I don't recall anything with these particular characters in Violence Jack proper, but it has been a while since I've read it, and again, the manga itself that I own is all in Japanese, so I did a combination of online reading, Google translating, and then just looking at the pictures for other chapters for context. It's very hard for me to remember if these characters were a thing in original Violence Jack. I don't recall them being. Point is, I think that this story was very interesting. It was a one-shot, so it's only 1 chapter long, and it's not long like regular Violence Jack chapters are. Very short, and in my opinion, almost too short. It establishes a very interesting idea, but then rushes through it, and then immediately just kind of abruptly ends. There's a twist which comes out of fucking nowhere, and then you don't really get elaborated on just because it just ends. So again, unless this actually was something that got addressed in Violence Jack proper, I don't really think that there's a whole lot to it. I would hope that there is. Maybe this is some sort of prequel or backstory to characters that were in the original series, and I'm just drawing a blank on it actually happening. If anyone does remember this being the case, be sure to let me know. Nevertheless, it was a fun one-shot, but I do think that it definitely left some room to be desired because it was a little too short and didn't really flesh it out. But anyway, that's my review of Violence Jack Demons in a War-Torn Land. I'm so glad I could finally read this one. But anyway, this has been Fugitive Red-Eye. Have a good one. Toodles.